It's the Morgan Evans More or Less Pickleball podcast coming at you in 3, 2, 1, boom. My guest today is someone you've probably never heard of. He's a professional player of a sport you may never knew existed. The budding sport of round net, commonly known as Spikeball, is much like Pickleball was not so long ago. It's in its infancy, trying to find its footing. One of its elites, Kenny Ortega, is joining me today to talk about the sport and his journey towards professional pickleball. Kenny Ortega, how you doing, mate?
Morgan, how's it going?
Can't complain. Not too bad for a slack Tuesday.
Nice.
So, you are a professional round net player. And for those listeners at home who aren't quite sure what that is, it's generally referred to as Spikeball by most of the population. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's true. Most people know it as Spikeball, or maybe have seen it on, ESPN or on YouTube or something. And Spikeball is the company that makes the sets and kind of hosts the main tournaments and such. So most people know it as that, but the sport itself is technically called round net.
Okay, so it's kind of like a Hoover and vacuum situation.
Yeah, totally. Or like rollerblading.
Oh, yeah.
Versus roller skating, kind of like that.
Okay. Well, they've done pretty well then, haven't they? Spikeball seem to own the market.
Yeah, they have done well, and they sanction all the main kind of the tour series for the competitive play of the game.
Okay, so could you explain a little bit about round net or Spikeball? How you began playing it? How do you play it? What's the kind of allure?
Yeah, great question. So I started playing it in about 2015, and this was my senior year of college, and was finishing up playing soccer in college, and saw a bunch of people playing it on the beach in Southern California, and it looked like a lot of fun. I'd seen it way back when, a handful of years before that, but I figured, hey, I'd give it a try, and started playing it with some friends, and we just got really hooked on it really quick. I mean, there's something about diving around. Back then we played a lot in the sand or on the beach, trying to make defensive plays and having long rallies. So that's what initially drew me to the sport. And then at that point, I didn't even know it was really a sport, I just thought it was kind of for fun. And then I found out there was a tournament in San Diego, and I ended up going to that, and we just got crushed. But I saw that there were people, they were filming it, and they were just about to be on Shark Tank, and there's people from all over the country that had flown in to go to that tournament. And I realized, whoa, man, there's some great athletes playing this. There's people that take this pretty serious. I think I could get pretty good at it. So I started playing at it, and luckily there's a lot of people who play in the California area, and started going to some more tournaments, started doing a little bit better. And then at that regionals, about 5 or 6 months later, I had a pretty good result, and that kind of was the springboard of, hey, I want to start going to some more tournaments. I think I can kind of do this at the top level. And then about 2016 started to have some success. 2017 have some major success at the top level.
Okay, so it took you a couple of years to turn professional, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say about a year of playing it kind of and getting used to it and playing a little more serious. And then I kind of had a couple breakout tournaments with my partner at the time. And then we just kind of repeated that at some other places. We played in like Alabama and Colorado at some big tournaments. And once we started doing that, it was like, okay, it wasn't a fluke, like a one time. They've put back-to-back results. And then we started getting power ranked inside the top 10 teams in the country, and kind of just had more success from there.
Okay, so it is the kind of sport that players around America, travel to various destinations to compete at the pro level.
Yes. However, I would say Spikeball it's still around it. It's still in its infancy, and yeah, people travel, but it's not like Pickleball where at the top that people, to my understanding, are able to, there's a lot more cash and a lot more money involved. And, for the last couple of years, there's been a like Spikeball Elite is the top 8 teams and they sponsor them, and I had a couple other sponsors as well. So that helped to kind of break even with costs of flying and traveling and such. And then, there's some cash for the bigger tournaments to get back, but it's really not a lot, which, is kind of a semi draw away, not the main thing for me, but it was, after traveling a lot and kind of just breaking even, it was fun, but
not likely to retire on the prize money.
By no means. It'll cover the hotel and the plane flight, but that's about it.
Okay, so it was a labor of love.
Yeah, totally. So
that's cool. But then, as I hear it, you moved to Boise around about a year ago and found pickleball. Tell us a little bit of how that happened.
So I had played pickleball a handful of times back in San Diego with one of my good friends and colleagues. And, I was still playing round net at the highest level and kind of committed to kind of doing that for the foreseeable future. But then COVID hit and my wife and I had actually decided we were going to move to Boise prior to that. Yeah, that kind of the string of those events led to me not playing as much round net in Boise specifically, just not a lot of players to play with. And kind of like most sports, you need at the top level, you kind of need those other high level players to push you or to train with to continue to stay at that level or to get better. And I really didn't have the access to that once I moved to Boise. However, I started seeing around a bunch of parks. This was the summer of 2020. A bunch of people playing pickleball, and I was like, man, it is popping here. I don't know. When I was in San Diego, I hardly ever saw anyone playing pickleball, but here there's tons of people playing, and I liked it when I had played, so I started showing up and just playing pickup, and found myself staying for hours at the park, just playing with generally an older crew of people, but I had a lot of fun. And then once I started doing good, after a couple of months, I started getting invited by some of the younger crew of people that play a little bit more serious around here. And just got hooked. And that whole season, the 2020 season for the Spikeball Tour series was canceled. And so that really kind of took away my motivation to keep training for round net and kind of opened the door of, man, hey, pickleball is a lot of fun. There's tons of tournaments all around the country, which is cool. And it sounds like some of them are more accessible or even open. And so it motivated me to keep playing. And I just really got hooked. I loved it. I also have always loved table tennis and never played it competitively, but was always good enough to beat all my friends. And so I think that helped. It was just like a life-size table tennis. I was like, man, this is a ton of fun. There's a lot of strategy to it. Yeah, and now I'm totally hooked and, trying to enter the full scene of pickleball.
Firstly, I'm sure all your friends are going to listen to this and they're going to re-challenge you with ping pong. So just be careful. They might come out of the woodworks.
That's true, Morgan. Actually, since I've been playing pickleball, my ping pong game has gotten pretty bad. Actually, the stroke of playing pickleball has destroyed my ping pong game. So
yeah, you can't have it all, unfortunately. When I was coming up in pickleball, I was still trying to play a little bit of tennis, and at some point, something had to give, and had to choose the pickle. So what's your plan? You've been a professional player in something else, and there's very few kind of crossover players. This is the main reason you're on the show. Aside from anything else, I want to kind of pick your brain in terms of how the professional organization works and what pickleball might be able to learn. But as an athlete, we have some top tennis players coming in. There's no one who's playing professional tennis, and there's no one who's playing professional table tennis, or, to my knowledge, anything else. And also a professional pickleball player. Generally they've retired at that level and then they get into pickleball. But are you going to try and do both, do you think? You seem like someone who, wants to get to the top.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Morgan. I'm sure my wife will listen back to this, and I know she won't let me do both, even if I aspired to do both. But the reality is, I'm definitely in the phase of pretty much, like closing the door and being at peace within myself with letting round net go and having a lot of peace about that. Mainly, there's a couple different reasons why, but the main one, and one reason why I really have got super excited about pickleball in the future, of me just being able to play it is I want to compete in sports. I've always loved sports, but I want to be able to do it for a long time. And the reality of injuries and body, it's not as easy as you get older. And I've had a handful of ankle injuries in my past from mainly college soccer and such, but round net is really hard on your body, and it's a ton of diving and tons of cutting. And it's just hard on my body. I was like, man, even if pickleball didn't come into my life, I was probably looking at a couple more years, and I was probably going to just call it after that, because it's just hard on the body. A tournament day I would feel sore and pain all over the body. And pickleball, you see people in their 70s, 80s, and they're still playing. And that was exciting to me that, hey, even, I might have a run at the competitive circuit for a while. And then even after that, I could still play this game that's a ton of fun with hopefully, my kids or whoever down the road at a later age, and just still have a lot of fun playing a sport. And so there's not a lot of sports like that, really. It's like, you're not going to play soccer into your 50s and 60s. Basketball, like those sports just get pretty hard to do at a later stage. And pickleball, I feel great playing. Ever since I've transferred over and been playing numerous times a week, I can find myself playing back to back to back days for multiple hours and feel pretty good, which just wasn't the case with most other sports, just on my ankles. So that's one of the main shifts. And I'm pretty much at that stage where it's like, I'm going to let round net go. I was considering maybe still going to like nationals this year, but there's so many pickleball tournaments that are out there, and I'm like, I'm hooked. So I'm realizing that the transition is here, and I'm excited about it, actually.
Have you told Josh you're going to let him go as a partner?
Yeah. So Josh and we talked actually a little bit ago, knowing that just with my job as well, and the shift of Spikeball tournaments being to a 2-day format, a Saturday and a Sunday, it made it even harder for me to be able to commit to those tournaments. I'm not getting back till like late on a Sunday, just with my job. And so that was hard. And so I let him know, hey, I could only do a couple tournaments, even if I was going to do tournaments this year, and kind of gave him the green light to find another partner and kind of play loosely what I was going to do if I was going to make my way to a couple tournaments. And I played in one this last week in Seattle and had a lot of fun. But really, if you don't train at a sport for even 4 or 5 months, it's hard to stay at that top level.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm at that stage where it's like, I might play one more, maybe 2 more, but I'm pretty much transitioned, and I feel good about it. And I felt even after this last week, it was like, man, I had a lot of fun playing, but I really like playing pickleball more. My body feels a lot better after a pickleball tournament than it does a round net tournament.
And I'm sure the missus doesn't miss trying to clean the blood out of your clothes after a round net tournament.
Yeah, sure. She doesn't like hearing me complain about my whole body hurting. So
what's your current sort of level in pickleball? How long do you think it's going to take you to get to the top? And I want to know what the plan here is.
Yeah, right now I'm had a lot of success at the 5-0 level, particularly men's doubles. My partner and I, he's from Boise, so we get to play a good amount together and drill together. And, my first tournament was in March in Utah at a 5-0 men's, and we got second in that. And then,
cool. Who was your partner?
His name's Nick Peterson. Yeah, he's a great player in the Boise area. And we've kind of just continued off that success. We got second at the Pacific Northwest Regional in Boise in the men's 5-0. So we just missed getting the golden ticket for that. But then we had another successful tournament up in Coeur d'Alene a couple weekends later, and took first in the men's 5-0, and actually got to play Rob Barnes and his brother. And so it was a good time. We beat him in the final. So
okay, so you're going to try to compete as a pro fairly soon.
That's right. Yeah, so having success there, and then we're looking to test the waters for sure in the open divisions coming up the rest of this summer and into the fall. So excited for kind of that new challenge.
Awesome. Okay, who are your training partners, and what's your kind of drill to play ratio? We're going to get into the nuts and bolts here.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe I'll even just ask you what what your pointers are and your tips are on that, since you've done it. So I play probably 3 times a week, 3 to 4, and then drill at least once, and sometimes drill twice a week. I like to mix in some weightlifting and kind of getting back into a little bit of that, but I haven't been making the time for that because I just like being out on the court and getting touches. So, playing about 5 to 6 times a week total, but drilling at least once or twice.
Okay. And your kind of style of game, do you tend to play fairly aggressive? Are you into the soft game? How do you find most points ending?
Well, when I play with Nick, I'm a shorter stature man, and
Hey, me too.
great, yeah. Power to us for doing it. I've always had a lot of success coming out of my round net career of defense, being a great defensive player and just reading the ball well. Yeah, in round net, you have to react extremely fast to be able to get a defensive touch on someone's hit, because it's 360 degrees to where you can hit the ball. And so with only 2 people being able to cover 360 degrees, it's extremely challenging. But I had a lot of success in that. And I think the footwork from soccer and round net translated over really well, that I can keep the ball in play pretty well and pretty consistently. I feel really confident about, my dinking has improved a ton, and really from the back court, I'm working my way up to the kitchen line. I feel really confident in that, the back area and the middle ground with resets and such. And so Nick tends to be he's more of the aggressor of the 2 of us, which works out well. I like to be consistent, and he likes to, take some chances and try to speed it up or put the ball away. So we found good success with the mix of that. I'm definitely trying to continue to work on my deceptiveness and choosing moments to be aggressive. I think playing mixed has helped me a bit, just in social play and such, just being a lot more aggressive when it comes to playing mixed doubles. So that's kind of where my skills right now, but I'd say my forte and my strengths are definitely my defense and my drops from the back court, and working my way up to the dinking line or the kitchen line.
Nice. That's always a great luxury for a partner, to have someone who is aggressive, if you know that the guy standing next to you is going to dig out everything. And,
right.
I've watched a lot of round net footage in preparation for this and some of your games, and it's quite amazing how quickly you can move and block something, but also how late you hold a diving kind of move to get that much more shallow angle onto the ball. So are you going to bring some diving onto the pickleball court? It's been done. It's been done before.
I've seen a couple highlights of people diving on the court.
Rob Cassidy is the king. I don't know if you've ever seen Rob Cassidy play, but he leaves DNA everywhere.
I've had a couple of those moments in play, but try to avoid. The concrete is a little bit different than the grass or the sand, so not as excited about diving around on the pickleball court.
Well, you should just wear a couple of knee pads, elbow pads. There was a guy who got named Proposal Dave, and he would always get down on one knee when someone was about to hit an overhead, literally,
right.
And he would just stand there and do his best to block it back. But it was amazing how often he actually did it.
Wow.
He used knee pads. But you could totally do it, man. You could make a name for yourself quickly as that guy that always dives around the court.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to think about that. It's a good way to get my name out there.
Fair enough. Okay, so training partners. Yes, you're talking about. In fact, you play 3 times a week and you drill. For a lot of players, if you're up and coming, if you flip that ratio, you're probably going to accelerate your development. To a lot of people, around 80-20 towards drilling is kind of key. And you're better off, honestly, with one player that you really trust to be going in the same kind of path as you. I like to have someone I know can compete or beat me in terms of hand speed, and start a lot of heads-up battles with them in a drilling scenario and get your hand speed up to snuff that way. And then someone else, ideally if it's the same person, but someone else perhaps who can work you around in the dinking department. Do enough of that and just mix in your games to give you a chance to practice the things you're working on in your drilling scenarios under a little bit of pressure.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, and I feel like that has been a helpful aspect of my partner and Nick, of being able to we feel like we both want to excel and kind of get to that next level, and being able to push each other to do that together. As you know, he's been playing for about a year and a half, and I've been playing for just over a year. That's been a fun aspect to have that. And then also some veterans as well, like Susanna Barr. I've learned a lot playing against her and drilling with her. So it's been helpful for sure to have some great players in the area to drill with, to see their skill sets and the different style of play as well. Nice. Is really helpful. Yeah. So
is Kyle Thiem still up there playing? I think he's up there, but I'm not sure if he's playing.
Yeah, I played a handful of times with Kyle. We played him in that regional tournament, actually. But I know he hasn't been able to get out as much as he'd like. But yeah, we definitely have connected a couple times. So looking to play more with him, because great guy and a great player. So I know he's been out of it for a little bit, but he's trying to get his toes wet again, I think.
Good. We miss him. He's a good bloke. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
We're going to hold it just briefly there for a medium tip from our sponsor, Coach Me Pickleball. Think of the growth of your game in the same way that you think about the growth of your body. To grow muscles, to become stronger, more powerful, you need to test yourself. Stress those muscles so that they adapt and grow. Think of a tournament as a workout. You're stressing yourself so that your body and mind are put to the test, one that they are more than likely going to fail at some point. A tournament is the ultimate training to failure workout. Even the winner has played to failure because there is no one left to play. I sometimes think of professional players as just the people that got the furthest in school. At the end of each year of school, a student sits exams. If they pass, they move on. If they don't, try again. What chance would you have of passing the 11th grade exam if you never took exams from K through 10? No chance. Imagine now you just passed 10th grade, but the world has a virus-related blip, and when you wake up, all the 9th graders are smarter than you. Not long ago, we lost the privilege of pressure. Tournaments. They are our exams. They are our workouts. Now they're back, bigger and better. The weights got heavier, the algebra test just became calculus, and there's a whole bunch of people realizing the game didn't just step forward, it took a leap. So what should you do? That's what you want to know, right? That's what we all have in common. We all want to get better, and we don't want to get worse. So what do? Here's what you do. For the next 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to spell it out for you. I'm going to give you the cheat sheet, okay? If you like it, you can take it. If not, just bring it right on back. To become a better player, you need to find out where you are strong and where you are weak. The only way to do that is to sit your exam, play a tournament, and get your report card. Take that report card and hit the drawing board. Record your matches so that your drawing board is accurate and not your ego just throwing your partner under the bus. Do this again and again. The more you do it, the more feedback you get, so the faster you can adapt your training to solve the current puzzle of whatever level you've got right now. Don't succumb to the temptation of training every day. You're not 12 years old and your body is like day-old rice. Unless you warm it up, it's just not going to go well. Remember, stress plus rest equals growth. The equation doesn't work without rest. To find the right amount of training, you need to listen to your body and then ignore your own perspective of your body and look at the facts. What's your lean muscle mass? What's your max VO2? How are you measuring your speed? Don't you dare trust yourself on that. Do court sprints and record your times. How well are you sleeping? How well are you sleeping during tournaments? Does your diet have to change when you're on the road? What kind of ratio of electrolyte to water works for you? How does your body respond to the additional glycogen in the days before the tournament? In short, know thyself. Get fit to play pickleball. Don't play pickleball to get fit. You're just asking for an injury that will end up costing you a lot more time in the long run. Every year, take at least 2 to 4 weeks off without touching a paddle. Seriously, you're addicted and you need to put the pipe down once in a while. Don't let this game become you. You're more than that, whoever you are. You got to do at least one other thing that gives you meaning. Doesn't matter if it's stamp collecting or hiking the Andes, just do it. Even if for no other reason than the fact that you really don't want the kind of crushing weight of self-expectation that only exists when your pickleball now defines you. Also, you'll lose fewer friends if you have a spare subject matter up your sleeve at the next intervention. Learn the names of the referees. Be nice to them. Let them feel comfortable and in charge. If you're a naturally combative schmuck and your ego won't let you accept defeat, then, well, don't do that. That sucks for everyone. In fact, tag someone you know that this describes. Call them out. Find a way to enjoy the event, not just the tournament. That's different for everyone. For you, it might be sightseeing, going to the beach. For me, it's drinking in a new location. It doesn't matter. If you can enjoy this moment in your life, then you'll be more than likely to want to do it again, regardless of the outcome of the tournament. Whatever happens, just think of a tournament as a stepping stone, a teacher, but not your magnum opus. You'll only know when that day was in hindsight, many years from now when you hang up the paddle. Do these things. Wear sunblock. And, sign up for Coach Me Pickleball. That should really help. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the best I can do for you. Let's head back over to Kenny, see what's going on with RoundNet. So in Pickleball, we have a couple of competing tours, the APP and the PPA.
Right.
In RoundNet, there appears to be just the governing body, the Spikeball RoundNet Association, that runs pro divisions and also sanctions other tournaments. Has there ever been any competing tour?
Yeah, there's the URA, which is the Utah RoundNet Association, and they host a ton of tournaments, and they have a pretty big following in Utah. There's a lot of people that play RoundNet in Utah, and they've actually branched out even this year with hosting tournaments just on the West Coast. So some in California and Idaho, actually. So they're not just doing Utah anymore, but they're definitely expanding. And so there's that. There's a California kind of tour series, like it's called the Caser. And so they do a little bit as well. And there's individual international kind of federations or associations that have their own kind of tour series, if you will.
Okay, and are they operating under the umbrella of the SRA, or are they just completely separate and don't really mind if they're sanctioned or not?
They work together. There's a tournament, for example, in Salt Lake City in a couple of weeks, and it is part of the URA kind of tour series, but it's also one of the major Spikeball sanctioned tour series tournaments. So they've kind of partnered on that together. And so there is some crossover. I think, they're independent in a sense, but they also, they tend to work. Spikeball, the company, likes to work with them and promote and even encourage, leagues or series to be started in different areas because, it's helpful for them regardless. The more people that are playing, the more people that are getting into tournaments, the better for their company. So.
Yeah. The rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the most part, they're all kind of playing nice, which is good to hear. It hasn't always been that way in pickleball. We have some little controversy, little competition between two tours, but I have noticed that they are individually getting better at their tours because of each other. I think if there was only one and they've got a monopoly, then it might not be the same. So
sure.
I'm curious where it's heading. Have you been to a professional pickleball tournament?
If it's considered an APP or a PPA, I have not. Actually, tonight I'm actually driving out to Bend, Oregon for, I believe the tournament in Bend is an APP. So excited. That will be my first experience at one of those and playing. So we're playing the men's 5-0 tomorrow morning, and then we've got the men's open on Thursday. So excited for that experience and test our game where it's at right now against some of the pros.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll be keeping a look at the brackets, see how you go.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the rating and or ranking system in RoundNet. Is there a rating system or is it purely rankings?
It's more so ranking. So in most tournaments, you've got your beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then what's called premier. And then now there's pro division. And so there's different divisions. You have to qualify. I guess there's now also one called contender, which is in between advanced and premier/pro. In order to become a premier/pro player to qualify to play in those divisions, you have to enter into the contender division and finish top 3 or top 4, depending on the tournament. And then your premier status lasts for about a year from your last tournament that you qualified for, essentially. And so that's kind of the distinction of how players are rated based on what they've qualified for, what divisions they play in. And then at the top level, there's kind of like a governing body that does rankings. And so there's team rankings, kind of power rankings is what they call it. They do it, every other month based on tournament results and mainly from the big tournaments. And then there's also kind of individual player ratings that go out, voted on by a committee, then also by the community of players at the end of the year, kind of the end of the year accolades and such.
Okay. So to actually be classed as a professional player, you have to go through this contender series, break into the Premier/Pro. Are they kind of classed the same thing, or is Premier under Pro?
There's a handful of Premier players. There's a lot of Premier players, and I would say there is a distinction between Premier and Pro. Now, the way that you would classify, I guess, a Pro would be if they played, for me, I don't know if it's the same standard for everyone, but if they played in the Pro division at a tournament, so usually from a Premier, they take the top 8, or it's changed over the years. So they take the top 8 Premier ranked teams of that tournament, and they'll be in the Pro division. Or they have a large Premier bracket, they do pool play, and then the top, again, usually the top 8 that come out of pool play are then slotted into a single elimination Pro division bracket. And then also you have to qualify at nationals. The top 16 teams at the end of the season will qualify for nationals, and usually you get a pro bid for that by finishing top 2 at one of the pro divisions of one of the tournaments during the year. And so I would consider that kind of the pro level players. There's about 16 teams, that have earned that status of playing pro division at nationals, or some have snuck into the, pro division during a tournament. And then there's kind of the elite class, I guess, is Spikeball Elite, which is at the end of the year, they take the top 8 teams, whoever had your best 3 or 5 finishes on the year, most points. Those will be the top 8 teams, and those are sponsored by Spikeball as Spikeball Elite for the following year or season.
That's cool. It actually, it sounds kind of organized. And, all the pickleball listeners that have just heard what you just explained, it seems to make great sense. And it's not something we're used to in pickleball. So I do hope the powers that be were listening to this, because from what you just said, it seems like an organized way to firstly classify professionals and run an effective league. One thing I did check out and was very curious about was the strength multipliers. I saw that there's a system in place in RoundNet for basically having a more accurate rating or ranking system based on the strength of the competition in each tournament.
Right.
Could you explain a little bit about that? Or
Yes, totally. So essentially, I don't know all the algorithms that going into that, but basically a tournament, it can be worth, one would be like the equal amount of points for that tournament, or they multiply it by 1.1 or 1.2, probably up to, I believe, 1.3. And like you said, it's based on the strength of the players that are competing in that tournament at the Premier/Pro level. And so if you look at how is that rated, it's based off the season before of the total points that each player individually had from their results at tournaments. And so, for example, a tournament that it's got 20 of the top 30 players in the country based off their points from the previous season and their results, that would be probably a pretty high, like a 1.2 or 1.3 multiplier, because 20 of the top 30 players in the world are at that tournament competing, which means it's going to be a pretty intense tournament, as opposed to maybe you've only got, it's a tour stop, which means there's still the same amount of incentive as another one. But if there's only 5 players or 6 players out of the top 30 players in the country at that tournament, the result of that team getting whoever gets first as opposed to the other tournament, it's not going to, now because of the multiplier or the negative aspect, I think if the tournament's weak, there's also, it won't get full points awarded to the team that wins. There'll be like a multiplier of 0.9 or 0.8 if it's a weaker tournament. So that, to help really with those points, again, the points play a major factor in who makes Pro Division at Nationals, who makes Spikeball Elite at the end of the year. So I think it's just Spikeball's way of kind of making, because of tournament location, et cetera, really the true top teams hopefully will get the right points for the right tournament based on the competition that's there.
I like it. It's borderline genius, I'd say.
Yeah, I think in theory, it's a great idea. There's definitely nuances and maybe, slight cracks in it in some ways, but overall, I think it's a good idea.
Beautiful. All right. So you've got a tournament, a pickleball tournament coming up this weekend. Are you signed up for nationals? What have you got for the rest of the year? How can our esteemed listeners find you on the courts?
Yeah. So, I mean, being in Boise, and I like to go to the tournaments that are hopefully semi-drivable. So I believe there's a good tournament that Steve Deacon is hosting in October in Idaho Falls. So that's in state. So that's a definite yes. My family and I was raised in San Diego, California. And, there's a handful of tournaments I'm sure you're aware of in the Newport Beach area, some of those invitationals. So I think the plan is to make way to some of those tournaments in Newport, kind of in the September, October or November range. I'd have to look back at the calendar. And then, nationals, I did get a golden ticket for mixed at the regional. So the intent is to go. However, my mixed partner is unavailable to go. So, hey, since I'm on your podcast, maybe I'll throw it out. If there's any females that are looking to go to nationals, you didn't get a golden ticket in mixed, but you want to play, I think we'd do great. So if you've got some skill and you want to compete at a high level, try and win that together, maybe message me or reach out. And I'd love to play. So intending to play nationals together. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we'll make sure we put a link in the podcast release so people can find you. And I assume you're looking for a 5-0 girl?
So I have only played one tournament for mixed. My men's doubles rating is above 5-0. But since that only one I played, and it was with a newer partner, we played 4-5 at that regional and won that. So I believe we have to play the 4-5 for the mix.
You don't have to. You'll have to play whatever your rating is when it comes time.
I
think there's a particular date, and what you are then is what you play. So if your rating right now is 4-5, then you might still be playing 4-5 in nationals. But if you have a couple of great results between now and then, and you bump up to 5-0, then that's what you'll be.
Yeah, no, that's where I'd prefer to play. I just haven't. It's kind of hard to find a mixed partner. So I've only played one mixed tournament or competed in the mixed doubles at a tournament. But I would love to find a equal caliber female to play a lot more 5-0 tournaments.
Well, you should ask Susanna Barr. She's really nice. I'm sure she'll say yes.
Yeah. I think she's booked out, I think, for the rest of the year with a partner.
Tell me about it. Jeez. I've always wanted to play with her. All right. Well, Kenny, thank you so much for your time, mate. You've enlightened me in this sport of round net and how the kind of parallels can be drawn between pickleball and round net. They're both kind of one of those fringe sports where so often it's kind of the sport you encounter when you're on the way at a park to play another sport like tennis, soccer, or basketball. And who knows when it'll really break into the mainstream and hit the Olympics. But I'd love to see one weekend where you play in a pickleball tournament and a round net tournament, and fans from both sides will come and cheer you on.
I don't know if those days would have to come really soon because as you said, it's hard to do both, but I'm with you. I like to see pickleball. I think it's on its way to be, why not, in the Olympics? I think it's on its way. So
good stuff. Until then, we could possibly invent a hybrid sport, basically a round net. Instead of using your hands, you use paddles and a ball. What do you think?
Yeah, a couple of people have tried that out actually with pickleball paddles. And
does it work?
It works. It's you might be a little more prone to taking a paddle to the face than you would prior. But it's a good little fun little cross sport training.
And what do you think? Pickle spike or spike pickle? Or round pickle?
Round pickle.
All right.
Yeah, I think we got it.
All right, we nailed it. Good stuff, mate. Well, how can our people find you? Do you have like a handle of some kind, a social media presence that people can get a hold of you?
Well, if you're curious more about round net, again, I'm not playing nearly as much anymore. But if you're curious of what is the top level of round net look like? My old team account is on Instagram is Mammal Round Net. It's just one line. And then if you're curious on following just me personally and my journey of transitioning from round net to pickleball and seeing how far I can go with pickleball, my Instagram account is Kenny Ortega CO. So Kenny Ortega Co.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me, Morgan.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, mate. I look forward to catching you on the courts.
Yeah, I love to. Hopefully we cross paths soon.
Yeah.
So that'd be fun.
Definitely. All right, bud. Take care of yourself.
All right.
Say hi to the family.
Thanks, Morgan. Yeah, I will. Appreciate it.
All right, mate. Cheers. This podcast was powered by Selkirk. This podcast is also brought to you by the next generation of Selkirk paddle, the Vanguard. As always, it's been an honor and a privilege to have your company. Hope you've enjoyed the show. I'm Morgan Evans, and this has been More or Less Round Net. Pickleball. Bugger. God, we're just changing lives out here.